two guys talking to each other, and this one guy doesn't understand shit and tell me. So hello everybody, welcome to a new video. I thought I'd try something else today, because if you saw my vlog, you know that I read a book which is called The Courage to be Disliked, or Don't Get Distracted by the German Cover. Du musst nicht von allen gemocht werden. It's a German title which is translated a little bit differently. It means something like you don't have to be liked by everyone, which I think is not a fitting title. I think The Courage to be Disliked is a much better title. If you saw my vlog, you also know that it took me a while to finish. So I thought to just do a very quick, very short review of that book without giving you too much. I have a very small list of pros and cons about this book, and I think I'm gonna start with the pros, because I'm gonna give it to you right away. All in all, I think it's a good book. I think the cons are just very, very subjective to me. The first pro is that it teaches you something about the psychology of Adler. As you know, there's like the psychology of Sigmund Freud, which is another type of psychology. Not really, but it's just a different, another perspective on the human psychology. And this book teaches you something about the psychology of Adler, which is, to be honest, in my day-to-day life, not mentioned enough. The difference is, gonna make it short, that in the psychology of Sigmund Freud, there's something like you have a very strong bond with the past. For example, something happens, you're traumatized by that, and so every other action in your future life will be bound to that trauma that you had in your past. The psychology of Adler is something goes in a different direction. It's more like a psychology where you look more into the future. So it's not like something happened in the past and now you are scared to do this and that. It's like you don't want to do this anymore, so now you create the feelings that you don't have to go there anymore. I know it's not the best explanation, but you will read it in a book. It will tell you a lot about it. I don't want to go too deep into psychology, because I also, don't have any authority to speak about it. But anyway, I think really because I'm in the self-improvement bubble, and it's a very good take on that. Be careful if you read it, because I also read critiques on it online, and the book starts with something where the author says there is no trauma. Trauma doesn't exist, which when I first started reading it, the first chapter, I was very, what does he mean? Of course trauma exists. But he gives you his explanation. I'm like, okay, I know what he means, but it's still a hard topic to speak about. But then in the next chapter, he says, of course, there is trauma and blah, blah, blah. So just so you don't get discouraged reading it in the first, chapter, you have to give it a bit. Yeah, the other one is, of course, The Courage to be Disliked. This is a topic which I think, the main topic of the book, which just starts in the last third. It's very important. It's the main part of the book, of course. This is something which is also bound to the next thing. It's like living in freedom. If you want to live in freedom, you need to have the courage to be disliked, which I think is a very, very good takeaway of the book and will help me in my day-to-day life, because there also are, of course, examples in the book which I think, I can relate to them very, very much. Like in school or your personal life or at work even. These are things I experienced in my life, and this guy in the book also talks about that, and I really see myself there, that I really needed courage there, the courage to be disliked. I'm a little bit of a people pleaser, and this is also something that I also think about how others perceive me, how they see me, what they think about me, so I can really live in freedom, because I always think about, when I'm gonna do this, he will think of me that and that way, and this is bad for me, so I don't do this, and I really want to do it, but I know because I will look bad and people will make fun of me. And this is something that is really a major takeaway for me from the book, that you need to live in freedom, which I guess we all want. You need the courage to be disliked. Something else he talked about is vertical relationships. You need to build vertical, no, it's wrong. You need to build horizontal relationships with others from the beginning. Like when we are born, we always have these vertical relationships, like the parents are above you. If you're in school, there's like this hierarchy of the popular kid, and you're somewhere down there, but you have better grades than this one, so you're somewhere in between. And there's the teacher which is also above you. Then you're going to work, your boss, he's above you, of course, your colleagues, he's blah blah blah. The book teaches you something which I never heard before. These horizontal relationships to others. It's bound to our human nature that we always think about a hierarchy and who's above us and who's the alpha and stuff, but we don't need that anymore actually. So if you think about your boss and your colleagues on one line, you know, like everyone is on the same boat, of course. Everyone has different duties, of course. Yeah, you and your boss, you know, you have different responsibilities, but at the end of the day, your personal beings should be on one line, which I really think is all right. He says something like, you need all of your, like without exception, all of your relationships need to be on that vertical line to really live by that vertical line. And if you have one, all your relationships have to be on that horizontal line without exception, because if just one relationship is on a vertical line, every relationship in your life will also get into this vertical tower, which I don't think is that real. I think you can have, you know, different relationships and different stations of your life which have a different impact on you, but yeah, so I'm not going to take everything step by step by heart like 100%, but you can cherry pick a few good things out of the book. Now, because I'm going to go to the stuff on the book which I didn't like. It was a hard read for me, not because of the language, it's not a bad part, but it took me a long to read it, because this is a self-help book, of course. This is a self-help because this is a self-help book. This is a self-help book, of course. I like when someone tells me something like, this study showed this, and and I would recommend you to do this, and then I can follow very well. But this is, he wrote it in a dialogue form. There's like the philosopher and a young man. And the young man goes to the philosopher to search for answers and blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the book, the author tells us why he chose this. He chose this so if it's like in this dialogue form, the reader, which was me for example, he chose this so if the reader has any questions, if he put it in that dialogue form, he can answer these questions directly, you know. So I as a reader don't, if I have a question, I can directly see, okay, he meant this and that because of the dialogue form. Two guys speak to each other and he's like, oh, can you repeat that again? I don't understand it. Blah blah blah. Which he could have put that in the beginning actually, because I really didn't like that dialogue form. There's a second part to that book, and it's also he wrote it also in that dialogue form, and I don't think I'm gonna read that because it took me so long to finish this book. I couldn't motivate myself. When I read it, I was like, oh, this is such a good topic and I love it and I need to read more of it, but I couldn't motivate myself to sit down and read the book because the dialogue form was just too much of me. Also, following that, I think it's very repetitive because of that dialogue form, because the philosopher says something like, oh, you need these horizontal relationships, and then the young man will always be like, horizontal relationships? Yes, horizontal relationships, because this and that, and then they will explain it. But there are a lot of points, or you know, he tells you something like a very big paragraph, and then he was like, wait, I don't understand it, can you explain this and that? And it's like very hard for me because it's always so repetitive. He tells you a new chapter, like a new point, a new subject they talk about, and he will always ask the questions, like every time he's like, oh, I don't understand. Like you have really the feeling that this guy is the dumbest guy in the world. Yeah, you really have the feeling that this guy is sometimes, not every time, but sometimes the dumbest guy in the world. This is really something which you know, when you read it to like the 50 times, like I can really go on every page, and there's like on every second page he's like, oh, what do you mean by that? Or like he's you know, he's really repeating the guy that the philosopher said, and it's a hard read. Sometimes he's just repeating like a word. If you, maybe I can put it in a different spot. If you really like reading fiction and you want to go into some self-help books, this could be a very good start for you, because of course in fiction you have this dialogue form, or like someone's telling you a story, right? So you have this form, and you can maybe do something with it. But I like to read these non-fictional books, and then it's hard for me. Just, you know, two guys talking to each other, and this one guy doesn't understand shit, and like tell me, I understand, you know. I know what you want to tell me, and this guy, like, I don't need his nonsense to be in the book. But I think it's just I don't know, just because I thought this is a very, very hard read for me. It's actually not that bad. If I'm honest, it's not that bad. At the end of the day, I will give this book, gonna do like a star rating here. I will give this book 4 out of 5 stars because I have major takeaways that I can take out of this book. Like even the psychology of Adler, for example. I just want to know more about the psychology of this guy and his forms, which also you can see like it's not a psychology, it's more like a philosophy to live by. But I think it's interesting and it could help a lot of people. Is it gonna be the first one I recommend to like my friends? I don't think so. But if you, like for example, like I said, if you only read fiction, this could be like a very good start for you to have this dialogue form. I also got this book, someone on YouTube recommended this to me. I read it and I really can see why he recommended it and why he thinks that this is the best book for him. But I wouldn't go that far into it, but I can't really say that it's a bad book. It's really like if you listen to me, the stuff that I don't like about this video, the stuff that I don't like about this book is really very subjective, like the form, how he wrote it and stuff. I also have to say, like, actually he wrote it easy, like it's easy to understand. Of course, you don't need a lot of insights before reading this book. You can really just start reading it. Thank you very much for listening to this video. If you want more of this book recommendations, you can of course write it in a comment or just like the video so I see that you guys are interested in it, and I will show you more books that I really like or I don't like even. It really helped me on my journey and on my way. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and maybe write a comment how you think about this, or how you, if you already wrote this book, what do you think about it? Thank you very much and see you in the next video.